sometimes you're on a path, and the minute you steer off that path and something doesn't go right, it's a great chance to look at things.
You teach people how to do this themselves so they can do it themselves.
Like I said, you can turn a lot of those so-called negatives into positives.
All right, welcome guys to today's show. We have another phenomenal guest for you guys. We bring you the most valuable people in the real estate industry to bring you good value so that you can better grow your business, start your business, or just get some inspiration if that's what you need. So today we have Alicia Jarrett all the way from Australia. It's early morning for her, afternoon for us. But yeah, we're going to talk to Alicia about her land business. She's got some other businesses that we can dive into if she decides to talk about those. But like any guest we have, we usually start with one topic and we end up going deep into many different other things. So I appreciate you guys being on here. If you are new to our channel, please subscribe, leave us a review, show us some love. We'd love to see that from you. But let's just jump in. So Alicia, like
Tony, thank you. I feel like as an Aussie, I should say something like "G'day, mate," but it's funny because not many people actually say that over here. But hi, and thank you so much for having me on, and to all the listeners, thanks for tuning in.
Yes, I love your energy. You're so bubbly, and you just provide that energy. So I'm very excited to have you share your story and all that good stuff. So for those who don't know you, just share your story and let's just dive into who you are and what value you want to add to our listeners.
Yep. I'll try and keep the story as high level as possible because I know we've only got limited time, but I've been doing real estate investing in the US now with my business partner, Matthew, for more than 5 years. We did actually do a bit of real estate investing here in Australia before we switched to the US. And maybe we can talk about the differences in those in a moment. But we started doing some fix and flips all the way from the other side of the world. We'd often jump on planes and actually go to the US and buy properties and put teams in place and a whole bunch of stuff, which we loved. So we started doing houses, but sometimes you get houses that are just really easy to do. Your contracting team is easy. Your ARV, your after repair value, all the numbers add up and it's great. The last deal we did, Tony, let's just say it wasn't great. It was the deal that made us think about our strategy. And I now look at that as a real blessing because, sometimes you're on a path and the minute you steer off that path and something doesn't go right, it's a great chance to look at things. So we stopped and said, okay, we are real estate investors on the other side of the world. What would be an asset class that would be a little easier when it comes to doing deals? And we came across vacant land. So we've been doing vacant land now for 4.5 years, somewhere around there. We buy and sell vacant land. We hold land. We do forced appreciation on land with subdivisions. We do seller financing. We do a whole range of things with vacant land. And so 4.5 years on, we've got a team in place that manages all of our seller calls, our buyer calls. They basically run my business for me. And in addition, we just like you, we've got another side hustle, which is a real estate marketing business because we soon realized very early on when it comes to acquiring properties that you can't just do what everybody else is doing and expect the same results. So you have to really up the ante on how you're marketing, what you're putting out there into the universe and how you're managing that. So we've got a marketing business now as well, amongst other things. So one thing I'll add to anybody listening, because this is a bit of a misnomer that I hear out there, that people go, well, I have to be able to see the property to do something with it. No, you don't. We're doing this from literally 14 hours away. I'm calling you from the future, Tony, by the way, just so you know. And we can do this sight unseen, and we've got some amazing deals that we've done over the years. So yeah, here we are, 5 years on, still going strong.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, we just had a call with our clients. They're on TV commercials with us. We had someone come on that does 20 to 30 deals virtually every single month. And that was part of what he taught, was like how to get sellers to sell you their house without you ever seeing them. So it is definitely possible. I've never met anybody who's done it out of the country like you have, which is impressive. And so it's cool getting into land. I only know probably 2, maybe 3 people that specialize in buying land. And it's always been intriguing to me. It's nothing that I've really dove into. I've done very little land. Like we just bought a couple properties the other day, and we sold off a little piece of land for like $8,000. So it was an extra $8,000 that we didn't plan on. It just came with an extra piece of land. And actually I did buy a piece of land for 8 grand, like 8 years ago. And then someone came and just offered us 40 grand for it. So decent
Nice.
return overall, I guess. But I haven't done it at a high level like you have. So tell people the difference between houses and land and why you converted to doing land over houses.
Yeah, great question. I guess first of all, let's talk about the obvious, and that's the fact that land is not sexy, right? Most people drive past it and don't even look at it. Whereas you drive past a house and you go, "Oh, I could do a rehab on that and make it amazing and do all these things." So houses are much more visual, and but what comes with that is, yes, it's more visual, and you can imagine doing more things to it, to put a family into that home, to put it back out onto the market as a rental, all of these different things. But it also comes with a lot more problems. With houses, you've got termites, toilets, trash, tenants, a whole range of things that can be really difficult things to fix. So on the surface, you might not see those problems until you really get in. Land doesn't really have most of those problems. So I guess investing from the other side of the world, we needed to really make sure that we had an asset class that if we did have problems with it, they were easy to solve. Because let me tell you, when we had problems when we were doing houses, they were much more difficult to solve unless you had boots on the ground. And with land, you don't really need boots on the ground. The only boots on the ground that you probably do want to have on your team, but again, they don't need to be location specific, have a realtor on your team, a really good title company, a good probate attorney, a good real estate attorney. And that's probably the main 4 things that you need. The rest you can do. And I guess, the switch to land, when we really looked into it and started to sort of step back and go, well, do we have the skill set to be able to do vacant land? The answer was yes, because if you've done any other property, vacant land tends to be a part of any other property anyway, right? You're just removing the complexities, the dwelling that sits on it, whether that's a commercial property, a house, etc. So with land, we started and we've come across all of those problems that we've needed: title companies, realtors, probate attorneys, real estate attorneys. But the thing is, they're pretty easy to solve. You're talking about getting rid of taxes and liens on a property so that the title is clear and you can sell. You're talking about liaising with family members over a probate so that you can work out the rightful heirs of the property and be able to sell. You're working with owners and title companies to fix a chain of title that might be broken over a number of years of intergenerational land and not having the right paperwork when they did it. But all of those things are pretty easy to solve when you've got the right team, and you can do all of that virtually. So yeah, we haven't looked back. And vacant land, as I said, not so sexy because you just drive past it and don't think. But as you just rightly pointed out, you bought a piece for 8,000, probably did nothing to it, didn't even think about it, and years later you got an offer for 40. So what we do with vacant land is we will buy properties direct from the seller. Often if they've got problems that the owner does not know where to start with or doesn't have the skill set to be able to work through, we will sort out those problems for the owner, buy the property, make sure that the title is good. Then we find a user for the land. Just like what you did. Someone comes and makes you an offer and we just take the difference. So we're doing that with kind of flipping land. We're also doing forced appreciation on larger properties where we might take an acre and split it into 4. We might take 10 acres and split it into 20. So we're doing some different subdividing things on there. And the other thing that I really love, Tony, about our business is the seller financing side, because after the market crashed from 2008, banks stopped lending on land unless you've got a house and land package where someone's already going to build on that property. But there's so many people that have dreams of putting a business on a property and, starting something, taking agricultural land and starting a hobby farm, taking residential land and eventually putting a house on it, but they can't get a loan for that land. So we become the bank. And that is a great way for us to cash flow properties, but also to increase cash flow for our own business as well. So land actually has a lot of strategies on it when you really look into it.
Awesome. So from a scalability perspective, if someone's wanting to scale a land business, is there a strategy or kind of a way of doing land that's typical? Like, is it usually single family, like you find a $2,000 piece of land and you try and wholesale it for 10, or buy it for 2 and owner finance it for 10 and take payments?
Correct.
Is there like one strategy that's a bulk of what you do with land?
Yeah, so I'll answer this in a generic sense because everyone's different based upon their strategy and what they're hoping to achieve, I guess. But most real estate educators out there in the land space will teach you to just start with infill lots. You know, go to an urban area, not in the major city, but on the perimeter of the cities. Go to some urban areas, look for vacant infill lots. Those infill lots, someone can easily put a house on. You can sell it to the neighbor so that they can make their property bigger. You can sell or finance it, or you can flip it for cash. So they're pretty easy strategies to do. But as you go on inland, you can really add different components to your strategy. So over the years, we've added commercial land that we can do like long-term leases with businesses on if they want to use the land. We've added acreage that we can do different things and rezone that land if it's right near other areas that have been developed. We can turn it from agricultural to residential, then start to work with developers on it. So as you grow in your skill set and your confidence, you start to naturally want to look for bigger and better deals, and they are out there. So we started with the infill lots just to get comfortable, and then we branched out into a whole range of other strategies to add to that. We now look at any type of land because in any market, Tony, you've got buyers and sellers, and you've always got different options of what you can do with the exit strategy. So we won't say no to anything. We'll take a look at them all.
What's the typical price point of a piece of land that you buy?
Oh, that's $1 million question because we've got ones at the moment that I know in our pipeline. I was talking to my team this morning. We've got some smaller ones that we bought for say 4,000 or 5,000, and where we've got them out into the market for 10,000 to 15,000. We've got one at the moment that's a $360,000 lot that we're looking to subdivide that will probably triple our money on that. So that it really varies, but I guess for most people starting out, typically they will look at those deals that are in the four figures, you know, looking for deals that maybe are in between the $5,000 to $9,000 range that they can put back out to the market between 15 to 20. Most people are pretty comfortable around there. But here's the thing, that you can do land with no money down. So you can get a property under contract, work with that seller to fix any issues with that property, and then find a buyer at the same time and double close. And so you can do deals when you're starting out with no money down. Later on, as you get more experienced and educated and confident and maybe have more cash flow available, buy the properties, because then you can do different things with them. You can hold them for specific times if you know what's going on in that area. So yeah, it really depends upon their individual's comfort zones, I would say, Tony.
Yeah, gotcha.
And
Yeah,
cash flow.
I've got a client that what he will do is he will buy the properties, let's say for $4,000, owner finance them for 20. He'll have him put $4,000 down, so he's nothing invested, and then he collects $300 a month or whatever he charges.
We do that too.
Yeah.
Great cash flow strategy. And these days with land, you can either sell or finance it and have it under like a mortgage or a terms agreement with a note attached to that. But a lot of people now are moving to like lease purchase agreements, because under a lease purchase agreement, if they start to default, you still own the property.
Yeah.
Versus seller finance terms where they're putting $4,000 down, you're exchanging title, and then if something goes wrong, you got to go through the foreclosure process, which can be pretty stressful.
Yeah, I do that with houses too all the time. We do rent to own as opposed to owner carry. It just makes it a lot cleaner for sure.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. So tell us how you find those deals. Obviously with residential real estate investing, there's many different ways that residential investors find properties. I'm sure there's some similar ways to find land, but tell us the secret formula there.
Yeah, it's actually no secret because it's exactly the same as what most people do. But this kind of leads into our own marketing company, because we could see that a lot of land educators out there will say, go and download a list, send some mail to that list and wait for the phone to ring. But that's about this much of this much, because you got to keep marketing. You cannot stop, because the minute you stop, your pipeline dries up as well. So we market in a number of ways. We pull our own data, find the right properties that we want to market to, and send direct mail. We also do an SMS follow-up to that mail piece once we know it's been delivered, because we track all of our mail. And that's just, hey, Tony, we see that you've got our letter. Have you had a chance to read it yet? And just open up a conversation with the seller that way. We're also doing online marketing. So that's the offline, direct mail, SMS, that's all offline. Online is with everybody that we're mailing to, we're creating audience that we're pushing ads out to them on Google and Facebook. and making sure that our website, our social media presence, our social postings, everything is really aligned. Because the one thing that I think can come really unstuck in this business is falling failure to skepticism. And what I mean by that, Tony, is naturally property owners are going to get a letter from you, whether it's for their house or their land or whatever. And the first thing that they're going to think is skepticism. Is Tony real? Is he actually going to buy my property? Is he going to help me out with my probate that I have no idea what to do with? Is he going to help me get my tenants out or clean up the piece of land? They start through the lens of skepticism, and they want to know that you are real, that you are genuinely going to help them, and that you stand by your messaging. So we get really consistent in the way that we're messaging with our websites, our socials, our letter, everything that we do. So we do more of an omni-channel marketing where we're kind of everywhere. Because these days as well, Tony, I think we need to remember the customer experience. So when we talk about customer experience, I'm talking about property owners that want to get rid of their properties. I call them customers because they are. We're dealing with people anywhere in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s. Someone in their 20s and 30s will typically do everything virtual. They'll look you up, they'll negotiate with you through your website and email, versus someone in their 70s or 80s that might want to call you and have a conversation about their property. So you need to make sure that you're marketing in a way that creates an environment for them to do business with you in any way that they choose, not how you choose, what they choose. And I think that's probably one of the distinctions, or I'm not going to say it's a secret sauce, because for me, it's kind of like common practice, but for a lot of people out there, it's not.
So tell us about, people love hearing numbers and stories, right? So tell us a story of a deal that you did that's pretty cool. Either it could be something that's big numbers, it could be a difficult deal you did. Like, just tell us something.
I've got one that hits all of those. So about 2 years ago now, it would be about 2 years ago, it's just before COVID hit, we purchased a property in Hillsborough County, Florida. It was 13 acres. 95% of it was wetlands, but we knew from our research that around that property, other wetlands had been mitigated and built on. And we also knew from a survey that there was no protected species or flora or fauna on the property, and that it was just a good percentage of it at certain times of the year. It was just wet. It wasn't like it was a swamp or anything. It was just, there were little ponds around the place and little bits of water. But when it comes to rainy season, it's a pretty wet piece of property. And we thought, you know what, 10,000, surrounded by all these beautiful homes that had been developed and commercial zones, and also the land itself. It was currently zoned residential, but it had already had a future use code approved for a commercial. We were like, all right, multi-use piece of land. The precedent around it of what can be done is there. Let's take a chance on this piece of land. So we bought it. It was difficult trying to get people in there to do more delineation reports on the wetlands itself, because it was pretty overgrown. That was challenging. Getting buyers that were interested, and then they'd go there and go, nope, too hard. And it was like, oh, damn, is this ever going to go anywhere? And we finally just, we had our realtor working on it. We finally came up with some different ideas for the property. We ended up putting a really big, it was on a major road. We put one of those big, almost like a billboard, but not as big as a billboard. It was a double-sided, so no matter what direction on the highway you were coming from, you could see, this lot's for sale, call this number. 13 acres, multi-zoned. 2 years on, we finally found somebody that knew what to do with wetlands. They knew how to mitigate it, and they knew how to develop it. And they put an offer in for 197,000, and we closed. So all in all, our all-up costs, by the time we got the survey done, the sign, the delineation report, we got some environmental studies done and things like that. Our all-up cost was about 16,000, and we sold it for nearly 200.
Nice, that's awesome. And I bet,
and we held it for 2 years, right? So again, sometimes these deals, you've got to be patient. You've got to try lots of different things and be patient.
Right. I used to live in Hillsborough County. What's the address, or what were the intersections? I was only there for a year, so I may not know.
Oh God, you're taking my mind back. I'm gonna have to look it up, but it's in Plant City. But I'm gonna have to change screens and look it up, because that's not where my brain's at. So
that's further north than I think I was ever. I was in South Hillsborough by the bay.
Yep.
So yeah,
nice.
No, that's awesome. That's cool though. Good story. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, over 10 times your money.
It was a pretty good one. That's our best one to date so far, but it was probably also our most challenging.
Right,
But
right.
what I love about that is we just didn't give up. It was like, no, we can see that there's potential here. We can see that there's precedent in the area. We just need to find the right person that has the same vision we have.
Do you
And we
think,
did.
do you think if you were able to mitigate the swampland that you could have gotten even more money for it?
Probably, yeah. But I guess it comes back to, the whole concept of velocity of money. It's where you're putting your money and cycling your money through so that you're getting growth on that money all the time. So to mitigate that property, it was not cheap. We did look at some numbers around that, but then if we mitigated it and we found somebody, because part of the property it was multi-zoned. You could also use it under the commercial zoning for planting, fruit trees and having an orchard there. So you
Right.
could use it for a number of different things. So we thought, we don't want to dictate what someone can and can't do with the property. We know that there's a number of different exit strategies. So let's just see who comes our way and what their thoughts are. We also, as part of our marketing strategy, we said we're going to add $30,000 in to clear the lot. So we got a quote on actually clearing the land. And we said for any buyer that comes to us with the right price, we'll take that off and give you that as a voucher to go and get the land cleared as well. So, looking at different strategies to entice the right conversation with your buyers.
Yeah, fantastic. So what else can you tell people about land that if they're getting started? Because a lot of people are, listening are probably like, man, I do residential. I've never done land. What is the number one thing you would have them do to get started in land?
Go and do some education. And when I say education, if they're already doing other properties and the education is minimal, it's really just looking at the niche, or you guys say niche, we say niche, but the niche around vacant land and what are the different things you need to look at to research where you want to target, types of properties you want to do, owner attributes, etc., and looking at the right areas around growth paths where things are being developed. You can do land, you can literally do land in the middle of nowhere and there's often a buyer. It's crazy what people will do with land. But the other thing I'd say is think about your results and your numbers that you want to reverse engineer, because in my experience, and we've got some customers in our marketing company that do houses and little multifamilies as well. They're having to go through thousands of leads, sometimes, 2 to 4,000 leads to get that property. Land, 600 to 700 leads and you get a deal. So it's a much easier asset class to look at. And what I would say is, go and do some basic education. I can provide some links on some great places to go and look at. There's lots of free education out there now for land. Go and have a look at Ari Tipster on YouTube. Seth Williams runs Ari Tipster, and he's literally got days and days and days of videos on there for every topic you can think about with land. What to do if your land needs a probate, what to do if it's landlocked, what to do if you need to get an easement on the property. Anything you can think of, he's got free content out there. So go and get some education and then do a test. Work with someone like us with our marketing business to pull together some data and some mailers and go and test some counties and see what you get back. It's not that expensive to go and do a test with land just to see who's selling, what are they willing to sell for, and what types of properties are available in that county or that area.
Awesome. Well, you said something earlier that I want to touch on, and I don't know if people caught it, is that you have people on your team that are working the business for you, right?
Yep.
So I think you said attorney and realtor, and it really takes a good team to build a good business. And it sounds like you're doing it right. You've got multiple businesses. And the other thing I want to kind of state is that you started with residential real estate, and then it led to land. And then it also led you to having your real estate marketing company, right? When someone, and actually
Correct.
There's some big companies like that, even Amazon's the same way. They started with an online bookstore. That's how they started.
Right. Yep.
Look at the giant they're in now. So I guess the point that I want to say is that if something's not working for you guys, remember there's always a silver lining.
There's always an option B. Yeah, there's always a silver lining.
When something doesn't work, it's like, man, there's something maybe right around the corner if you just change your strategy. So Tell us some other business stuff. I love talking high level business. I love real estate, obviously, but just from a high level business perspective, you're doing quite a few deals. You have multiple businesses. What are some business strategies or tips that you could give the listeners that you think that they could use to run a successful business?
Yeah. Great question. I've got quite a few things to talk about here, but I'll try and keep them brief. The first one is You have to get in and do the business yourself before you get someone else to do it for you. So early days on when we were doing houses, I was the one on the phone to sellers, buyers, contractors, realtors, you name it. I was the one making those phone calls. And I didn't have the first clue what I was doing, but you just got to feel the fear and do it anyway. You're not going to get anywhere in this world unless you really just jump in and give things a go. And most of the time, our adult brains, we learn by doing. We don't just learn by watching something or listening to something. It's like you learn by implementing, right?
Mhm.
So do things first, because then that leads into my next piece of advice, which is if you are going to hire people, before you do that, look at systems and processes first. So when you look at how you want your business to run, what can you systematize? What SOPs do you put in place? What CRMs do you look at? What types of, flow throughs and automations can you look at that kind of run part of your business for you? And then you might want to look at people to run those processes and systems. I think a lot of people come unstuck because one of the biggest expenses in business is humans. It's people. It's, paying for their salaries. And we've got like over 19 people across our businesses now, and that's a lot to outlay each month. But if we didn't have the right systems and processes in place, we'd probably have twice as many people. And then you end up with a job just managing people, not growing businesses. So really make sure you're looking at stepping back, first of all, and really considering, how do we want our business to run? And when I talk about that for land as an example, it's really stepping back from mapping out that flow through of how do we want leads to come into our business? How do we then want those leads to be nurtured, managed, closed on, contracts sent? How do we want the disposition side to run with advertising properties, automating price reductions, having the buyers come through a different number so we can track them, we can nurture them, we can do all these things. How do you systematize that in a way that then becomes easy to put people in place to run it? So that would be my biggest thing there. And I guess the other thing is, as an owner of multiple businesses, you've really got to protect your time. Now, don't get me wrong, my business partner, Matt, and I, we work long hours because we've got big goals in place for those 4 businesses that we have. But we don't mind doing that because we've got our true north with our big goals is definitely still there. But you've got to really think about how much time you're spending in your business versus on your business, and have a balance of that. Because the temptation as a business owner is to get in there and do stuff that your team should be doing versus focusing on working on your business, which is, how do I train my team and enable them to do that stuff for me? Because the temptation, we always have that mindset that I can do stuff better than everyone else, but that's actually not often true. Because if you're the business owner, you might be too emotionally invested in that process to do that efficiently versus someone else that can look at it more objectively. So, there's a whole range of things I can keep talking on about there, but I'll leave it at that for now. And hopefully that's given your listeners some ideas.
No, they probably heard that from me before, some of that stuff, which is it's the same philosophy. It's like, what is your time worth? What should you be spending your time? What can you automate? What can you systemize? And it's just crazy to me, the things that entrepreneurs do that I'm like, first of all, you're still doing that. I can't believe you're doing that. Like, that should be something
they create
done by
another
somebody
job
else
for themselves, right?
Yeah, they're like, someone will be like, oh man, I got to go write a check and bring it to a contractor. And I'm like, really? Like, your time isn't better spent figuring out what the next marketing idea is, or the very least negotiating with sellers. Like, there's got to be higher level activities that you could be doing. So
correct.
Yeah.
And I think if the one thing that, COVID has been tragic for a lot of people, let's be honest, but what I think the silver lining from this pandemic has been is that there's so many more opportunities to do things virtually and online. Even some of the counties that we now deal with, they've got virtual people taking calls. They send us stuff electronically, as opposed to before. 5 years ago, we had to send someone into the county office to go and ask for a report on something, Title companies are doing things virtually. Remote online notaries have emerged through this time. So there's all these new things that have come about that we can actually do business in smarter ways. I think people just need to adjust their thinking around that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good stuff. Any last words before we start wrapping up? A lot of good conversation here. I think people are gonna like looking into Vacant Land. That's something that, this is the second or third high level conversation I've had with someone about vacant land, and The more I keep hearing about it, the more I want my team to maybe look into doing vacant land. So actually, I do have a question about that. So
Yeah.
does your marketing company, if someone said, hey, I want to do land, can someone hire you to do marketing for vacant land and you implement that for them?
100%. So we basically, our marketing company is around, our main focus that we work with is real estate investors, wholesalers, fix and flippers, land buyers, anybody that's even realtors as well, but anybody that's trying to acquire properties. And we manage their entire acquisition process, from their data, their mailings, their marketing, where they want to target, their online presence, all of that. We save them all of that time and effort so that they can focus, as you and I said before, on the stuff that makes the money, which is speaking to those sellers and closing deals. The other thing I want to highlight here as well, I guess my last point to wrap up would be, as a business owner or as an entrepreneur, you've really got to continually ask yourself, what am I actually good at? What's the stuff that I know that I can do well and I enjoy? Because when we enjoy stuff and we do it well, we tend to get a better result, right? And what are the things that make me money? Doing deals, speaking with sellers, speaking with buyers, transacting, thinking of the next marketing idea, going higher level. And what are the things that I can outsource? Because outsourcing all of your data, your mailings, your, everything that we do in that literally saves you hours and hours of time where you can be focused on just closing more deals. So really asking yourself that question continually, where focus goes, energy flows. And if your focus is on stuff that's making you money, guess what? It's going to start to flow.
Yep. If it brings you energy and makes you money, it's gold. It is gold.
Correct.
I love it. Good stuff. So how do people find you? If someone wants to learn about either land or your marketing company, where can they go to find you?
Yeah, they can just email me direct, Tony. I don't mind at all. They can email me about our land business. So it's Alicia, which is ALICIA. I spell that because no one ever gets it right. Alicia at landscouts.com is our land business. They can go and check us out at sell.landscouts.com. That's our acquisition site there. Or if they want to talk to me about ideas they've got for their business and marketing and strategy and things like that, they can give me an email at alicia@superchargedoffers.com. They can also call my team and book some time with me, which is 888-538-5478, or just jump onto Supercharged Offers on Facebook or superchargedoffers.com, and they can download a business strategy for free, an ebook for free, all of the things that we like to give away to our fellow real estate investors to help them grow their businesses.
Awesome. Fantastic. Good stuff. Well, thanks for the value. I mean, given all of your emails and phone numbers, that's more than I do. That's a lot of value there. Hopefully people take you up on that. So
Awesome.
I appreciate your time, Alicia. And I know we're probably going to stay on Zoom here because we have a lot of good stuff to talk about. We have a lot of commonalities and a lot of things that we'll be able to work on. So I look forward to that. And hopefully the listeners got a lot out of this. So again, if you guys are new to the channel, please like and subscribe. We're going to bring you a lot of good content in the future. A lot of great people like Alicia that are going to add value to you, your life, and your business. So we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Tony.